Welcome, everyone. My name is Rachel Nygaard, and I will be hosting the conversation today. I lead the Strategic Partnerships Office for Buncombe County, which essentially is our grants office. And with me, also leading our call today, is Angelyn Johnson, who's the grants manager who's responsible for most of the legwork behind these grants. And together, Angelyn and I are your points of contact throughout the year for the early childhood grants. This is a kickoff meeting where we've pulled together all of the organizations who are grantees of Buncombe County's Early Childhood Fund to be together to launch our funding year. I'm going to go through some slides in a few minutes, starting in a few minutes, and we will send those out to everyone after the call. Also, another item of housekeeping is just to let you know, you probably saw the pop-up. We are recording this session so that people that weren't able to make it today can do so. We have 17 different organizations that received a grant through the county's Early Childhood Fund this year. And even though we have a lot to cover and want to be timely, we still want to make sure that there's an opportunity to introduce ourselves to one another. As the year progresses, we'll look for other ways to cultivate those connections between organizations, because really we know that relationships are at the heart of the work that we do every day. So with that said, I have a list on my other screen that I'll share when we're done, but I thought let's leave it off the screen for now so we can see one another during the hellos. I'll go through the list and say the name of each of the organizations that got a grant, and when I call the name, if you would just unmute if you're comfortable with that and introduce your name and maybe your role in your organization to the others before we get started. It will be nice to have those introductions. So we'll start with Buncombe County staff. I'm Rachel, and then we also have...
Hey, good afternoon. I'm Angelyn Johnson.
The list is alphabetical. So the first one up is Asheville Jewish Community Center.
Hi, I'm Tiffany Hagemeyer. I'm the Director of Early Childhood at the Asheville JCC, specifically Shalom Children's Center. And we serve ages birth through 5.
Thanks, Tiffany. Good to see you. AB Tech.
Hi, I'm Tamara Reynolds. I am the department chair for the education department at AB Tech.
And I am Ron Lane. I am her direct supervisor and part of her support network at AB Tech.
Great. Bent Creek Preschool.
Hi, my name is Vicki Teague. I'm the director at Big Creek Preschool.
Hi, my name is Sarah Richards, and I am the comptroller at Bent Creek Baptist Church and Preschool.
Great. Good to have both of you, Vicki and Sarah. Buncombe County Schools.
Hey, I'm Taylor Baldwin. I'm the Career Technical Education Director for Buncombe County Schools.
Thanks for being here. Buncombe Partnership for Children.
Tasha, do you want to go first?
Yes. Hi, I'm Tasha Lewis. I'm the Workforce Development Director for Buncombe Partnership for Children.
I'm Jenny Vile. I'm the Director of Child Care Resources for the partnership.
Thank you, Tasha and Jenny. We also have community action opportunities.
Good afternoon. I'm Brian Repass, Head Start Director.
Yep, sorry. Good afternoon. I'm Mary Arnold. I'm the Program Operations Manager.
Good to have you both. Elida Holmes.
Yes, I'm Marilyn Chamberlain, the grant writer for Elida Homes.
Thanks for being here, Marilyn. Evolve Early Learning. I'm going to call the name just to see, and maybe if they're not making it, Angelyn, would you unmute and let me know?
Yeah, they will not be here.
I will skip on to FIRST.
Janet Price Farrell, Executive Director of FIRST. Davina Wyrick, the coordinator of the Sunshine Project.
Thanks, Janet and Davina. Irene Wortham Center.
Hi, my name's Nick. I'm the Development and Marketing Director at the Irene Wortham Center.
And I'm Brooke. I'm the Development and Marketing Coordinator here at the Irene Wortham Center.
Thank you both. I made a mistake and skipped Colaborativa La Milpa, so let's go back.
Hi, my name is Amy Worth, and I'm the cultivadora at Colaborativa La Milpa. And we're a collective of organizations, and one of our member organizations is Poder Emma, and the Early Childhood Education Cooperative Network coordinator, Henny Hernandez Lopez, sends her regrets. She is out of town today, but she sends her greetings, and we're glad to be here.
Thanks for representing. Back to the alphabetical list where we left off. On Track, Financial Education and Counseling.
Hey, I'm going to speak for just a moment longer than the others. I hope that's okay. But the reason is because, my name's Pete Wubleski, and at On Track, we do a match savings program where we're able to provide financial education and counseling to folks who work in early childhood education. And through a savings program, we can give a 4-to-1 match where people are able to get $840 in free money when they complete the program. And the reason I want to mention it real quick here is because I email everybody, and I got to work with some of you last year, or in this most recent round. And I just want to let you know, I'll probably reach out to you, and it's not spam. We can really give $840 to folks who participate in the program. So keep an eye out for that. Sorry for the extra time. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete. Read to Succeed.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Hall. I will be the new co-executive director starting on Friday with Read to Succeed.
Congratulations on your new role and welcome in.
You're super pumped. And hi, I'm Jess McLean, Jess Young McLean. Hey, Jana. I see an old friend on here and lots of familiar faces. And I am Jackie's co-ED with Read to Succeed Asheville Buncombe.
Thanks, Jess. Southwestern Child Development.
I'm Jennifer Webb, and I am the Contracts and Grants Manager and transitioning into the Early Childhood Pathways Outreach Director.
Thanks, Jennifer. Congratulations to you as well.
Thank you.
Swannanoa Valley Child Care Council,
Hi,
which is the operating organization. I know that's not the name that you all operate under.
Right. Hi, everybody. I'm the Executive Director of the Collins Early Learning Center.
And I'm Linda Hobson, the Board Chair of the Swannanoa Valley Child Care Council, and we do business as the Donald S. Collins Early Learning Center.
And I'm John DeWitt, Linda Hobson's assistant and Gopher, and vice chair of the board.
Thank you, Monty and Linda and John. We have the Christine Avery Learning Center next.
Hi, I'm Cece Weston, the Executive Director of the Christine Avery Learning Center.
And
hi, I'm Kyla Morton, the Assistant Director at CWA.
Sorry about that, Kyla.
It's okay.
I'm glad to have both you and Cece here. And we have the last name on the list is YWCA.
Hi, my name is Courtney Gentry, and I'm the grants coordinator here at the YWCA.
And I'm Sarah, and this is Julia, and we are in the programs department of the YW.
Good to have you, Sarah and Julia and Courtney. Well, thanks everybody for participating in that. Did I miss anyone? Great. Well, I hope that you found it worth taking a few minutes to introduce one another before we jump into the material, and I'll do that now. Oh, Angeline, you have to remind me, do I share it? Do I put it in presentation mode, then share screen, or the other way around?
You put it in presentation mode and then share screen.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Great. Oops. Here's the list of grantees that we just went through. And here's an agenda for our time together. The most important items for our time together are to discuss contracts, which is the way that Buncombe County structures our grant awards. So in that section of the agenda, we'll get into some important details about how to access the grant funding. We'll highlight some information about reporting and about contract monitoring, and we'll leave you with next steps in order to successfully launch your projects. And we've built in some time for question and answers. If you think of questions between now and then, please feel free to type them in the chat box, and we will work to answer all questions to the best of our ability. But to be respectful of everybody's busy schedule, we do plan to end on time. And I like to say, if you hear nothing else from us, please know that we are here to help. So you can drop a line. Our contact information will be on the screen later. You can drop a line anytime to Angelin or to me, and we'll be glad to answer any questions that occur to you later. Buncombe County has 9 grant programs currently, where we partner with community organizations across various domains that align with county priorities and county goals. An important website for you to have, if it's not already one that you visit, is on the top of the page, which is buncombecounty.org/grants. And this website has information about each one of these grant programs, like the guidelines, the awards, the performance reporting, the committee information, etc. And the grant program that we're here today to delve into detail on is the Early Childhood Fund. You heard the names of the organizations that received funding for fiscal year 23, or what we call FY23. It represents total grants of more than $3.8 million, funding 22 projects at 17 different community organizations. And you can see the real range of the type of project that's included, from behavioral specialists to providing early learning care on an extended day or extended schedule basis, supports for families and teacher pay, technology enhancements, workforce development in this snapshot. Here we are looking at the funding cycle, approaching July 1. This is an important date for us because it's the start of the new grant period. At Buncombe County, we operate on the fiscal year, which is a 12-month year, just like a calendar year. And it runs from July 1 through June 30. So we are working diligently to equip you to be as ready as possible to get going on your grant projects as close to July 1 as possible. And the first step for us in doing that is to establish contracts. So we will move into that content now.
Hey, so good afternoon again. Contracts are the way that Buncombe County will provide funds to the grantees. We follow certain rules given to us by the elected Board of Commissioners, like the resolution mentioned here on the screen. It says that we are to establish contracts that contain certain elements, including financial assurances, insurance provisions, payment details, a scope of work, and reporting requirements. And we'll go over each of these items over the next few slides. One of the elements of the contract is nonprofit financial assurances. As described in the grant guidelines, we collect certain financial assurances for nonprofit organizations receiving grants. If your organization is not a nonprofit, this will not apply to you. But for those who are, the required documentation for nonprofits includes the most recent IRS Form 990, as well as your financial statements. The required financial statements are tiered according to the size of the nonprofit. If for any reason your nonprofit is unable to provide the required assurance, just let us know, and we can review your situation on a case-by-case basis to determine whether you would qualify for a waiver to be able to substitute a different level of documentation for us. Insurance is also something that's pretty specific. We receive guidance from the county's risk management office about the level of insurance to request, depending on the nature of the work being conducted. So when you review your draft contract, you'll see a section listing which insurance is requested for your project and the minimum amounts of coverage that's needed. If you do not feel like it's necessary to carry the amount of insurance that we're requesting, let us know so that we can look into that with you. But here are some common types of insurance that you may see, with the first four, the ones that are shown in bold, being the most common ones. These are fairly standard insurances for organizations to carry, and you may utilize your grant funds to maintain these coverages as long as you build it into your project budget. So once the contracts are fully executed, which means signed by both parties, you'll be eligible for payments per the terms of the contract. Here's our standard payment schedule, which calls for invoices to be submitted quarterly for reimbursement. If you would like to request a different payment structure, let us know. For example, some projects are seasonal and it just doesn't make sense to spread the payments out across the entire fiscal year. Or for example, some nonprofits may rely on the cash flow in order to conduct the work. So reimbursement might not work in those cases either. But we'll start with the standard and commit to being as flexible as possible and helping you meet your needs. So the scope of work in our contracts is the place where we document agreements that are specific to your project. Nearly everything else is boilerplate and it applies to everyone, but this is the section that's all about your work. Our goal is to communicate the project in a straightforward list of activities that your organization agrees to complete by taking on the funding. Thank you for your responsiveness when I reached out asking for help in developing these. Most of you should have already received a copy of your draft contract, and anything in that contract is up for discussion if you have a question or want to request a change. However, this is the section where we do have the most flexibility. You'll want to read that scope of work closely and then just reach out and let us know if you'd like to request any changes to it. In every scope of work, there is a section for reporting. We will provide you with a reporting workbook to be used for your quarterly reports. The reports have three sections: the budget, the narrative, and the numerical. These sections have different tabs or worksheets within the Excel workbook. The budget section is based on the approved starting project budget, and it gives you a way to track your spending against the initial plan. You may request changes to your budget at any time in writing. Just simply shoot us an email explaining the line item change request and the reason for the change, and we'll respond to you in writing about that. The narrative summary is a chance for you to tell us about how the project is going. Please note that this year we are changing the report a little bit, and we're providing separate narrative boxes for each quarter so that viewers of the report can see the cumulative year-to-date status updates. Narrative reporting has limited number of characters, so please be concise in the reports. You're welcome to attach additional materials as separate documents in your email to us if you'd like, and we'll add that to your report for that quarter. With your help, we have selected 3 to 5 numerical measures with annual targets for your report. You will report on these measures each quarter, but it's important to report only new data each quarter. So for example, if the measure is the number of hours of training completed, and you completed 20 in the first quarter and 30 in the second quarter, you would enter it on the report as 20 in the quarter 1 column and 30 in the quarter 2 column instead of 50 in the quarter 2 column. The form's going to automatically calculate the overall total in the very last column for you. There's also some standardized measures that are included for similar types of early learning programs, such as the number of slots, the student attendance, teacher retention, and so on. Please note that your reports are published on the public website for review by the funding committee and also community stakeholders. Now I'm going to pass back to Rachel.
Great. Thank you, Angeline. I'm going to go into some information and spend a little time to talk about contract monitoring. This is something that comes later once everyone is already off and running with implementing your projects, but having everyone together on today's call presents a good opportunity for us to set the stage for this. So contract monitoring, what it means to us is it's a set of activities that we undertake related to this government grant funding to ensure that adequate progress is being made toward the project goals and to ensure that funds are being properly spent and accounted for. It's something that comes along with public funding. So staff conduct basic monitoring for all contracts every year. And this, an example of what this looks like is carefully reviewing the quarterly reports and making sure that everything is tracking along, and then following up with grantees as questions arise. Those reports are a great way for us to kind of keep track on how spending is going, if it's keeping pace with the plan, if it's spending within the categories that you thought would be needed, if you're making progress, or if you know, sometimes those follow-up questions do lead to contract adjustments. So that's basic contract monitoring. But we also do an additional in-depth type of contract monitoring that some contracts receive. We don't have the capacity to do this in-depth contract monitoring on every grantee every year. This more in-depth type is sometimes known as desk reviews. We select organizations for these reviews based on a random sample, and we can also do these if issues or complaints arise. So what that entails, desk reviews, we contact the organization and set up a time to meet together, and we conducted an interview style meeting with questions related to the contract, both programmatic and financial. And then we gather a set of follow-up documents to verify the information that was reported to us, both on the program side and the financial side. We are committed to being a supportive partner on capacity building. We do allow funds to be used for capacity building purposes when there are needed improvements that do arise. And we work to identify additional funding sources when needed, and we provide in-kind support as well. I'm going to show on the next slide some examples of how this looks. We've included for you here some common findings that occur. I will make an editorial aside note by stating that the organizations that we work with, particularly in the early childhood fund, tend to be very well organized organizations, probably due to the sort of strict amount of licensure and compliance reporting that already happens within the field of early care and education, particularly those groups that work with the state. But here are some examples of some common findings. Not having a method of linking expenses to the grant. Your contract in the payment section requires your organization to follow appropriate bookkeeping and accounting practices, including what's known as fund accounting. This means that you should have a method for separating Buncombe County grant funds from other funds received and spent by your organization. Fund accounting gives nonprofits who receive grants a way to link their expenditures to specific grants. Grants, such as this one, are provided for a specific purpose, which creates restrictions on the use of the funds. So using fund accounting gives you a way to demonstrate which specific costs are associated with each grant, regardless of the way that the specific accounting method that your bookkeepers and accountants follow. What we do require is the ability to provide a detailed list of expenditures associated with grant funds, meaning it doesn't just go into one big general fund pot at your organization, but gets restricted. That's one common finding that we work with organizations on. Missing receipts. This happens, it's easy for this to happen. We do not require you to submit copies of the receipts and other backup documentation with your reports. So as a matter of that basic contract reporting, you're just reporting to us how much you spent per category in your budget, but you're not showing us proof of having made those expenditures. So if we do a desk review and we're spot checking and asking for copies, you need to make sure that you've got copies of the receipt in hand in case we do request them. For our purposes, your tracking systems can be electronic, which is ideal, but it could be even paper records. That's acceptable. As long as you have receipts and invoices and purchase orders in an organized way that you can retrieve them when asked. Organizational policies is another one. We don't have a standard set of organizational policies that are required for all early childhood grantees. But when we talk to you about the way that you're using funds, we might ask how your organization handles certain practices. So if you're using funds to purchase subcontracts, we might ask for a copy of a purchasing or a procurement policy that talk about who's authorized to make purchases on behalf of your organization. Or if your organization is making a lot of purchases using a company credit card, we would ask for and recommend the best practice of having a credit card policy due to the high risk of misuse. So that's an example of what lack of organizational policies might look like. Time and effort tracking is another category that does come up for us. If your grant is funding staff costs, meaning salaries or benefits, there should be a system in place for documenting your employees' time and effort as well as the associated expenses. It's important to keep detailed records, especially when staff are funded by multiple sources. So if an employee isn't 100% funded by this one grant, the portion of the grant paid salary should reflect the time and effort that person put forward for that specific project. Again, we have flexibility in how you track that as long as it's consistently followed and it corresponds with the grant invoices. It can be an automated system, like we have organizations that do timesheets on an app or in a personnel system. But it can also be manual paper timesheets that are signed off, with pen and ink by the supervisor as employees turn them in. But regardless, the organization needs to make sure that you've got methods for making sure that information is consistent and that it's accurate. So thank you for listening to that. We wanted to set the stage about what contract monitoring might look like if your organization is selected, so it won't be the first time you're hearing about it. And whether or not you go through a desk review, we hope that you're familiar and that you familiarize yourself with these capacity building resources in our region. we are fortunate to have WNC Nonprofit Pathways, which offers skill building and technical assistance. One of the features that I use from Pathways quite a bit is a consultant directory that they have for linking to professionals with various types of expertise, whether it's financial management, human resources, program evaluation, you name it. Another great resource in our state is the North Carolina Center for Nonprofits. They offer professional development, resources, and events focused on strengthening the nonprofit sector. This is a membership organization, but you don't have to be a member to access many of their services. If you are a member, there are some additional benefits available, like access to pro bono technical assistance. Either way, good organizations to familiarize yourself with. So back to next steps, we've done a run through of the many areas in the contract where we have common questions. And when we think about where we go from here to having that fully executed signed contract, most of you should have already received your draft contract. I know that we're processing those this week. So if you have not received it, you should be getting it soon. If you see anything in your draft contract that you would like to be discussed or request to be changed, notify us. We can't agree that we have flexibility to change everything, but we'll listen and talk with you about what options we might have. Once it's good to go, please notarize it. We'll sign it, notarize it, and return it. And then you should also submit your nonprofit financial assurances if applicable. If there's a public or another organization that doesn't apply to, we won't ask that of you. But the certificate of insurance does apply to everyone. Here's our contact information. Like I said, we invite you to contact us anytime. And now we've come to time for question and answers. So I'm going to attempt to stop the share. There we go. So that was a fairly fast-paced move through quite a bit of information. To summarize, we talked about the grant overview, the grant awards, funding contract in general, as well as specifics on the reporting section, contract monitoring, and next steps. What questions are on people's minds, or Angeline, if anyone put any in the chat?
Rachel, this is Taylor Baldwin. I didn't have really a question. The contract for us, I know that I had Caitlin Johnson help me work on that. Is there a way that maybe you could send me the same copy that you sent her?
Yes, we can surely do that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, Taylor, would you like to be added as a second contact to get all the communication?
Yeah, I would actually, I'd like that because I can follow up because some of them are out for some summer vacations and I can follow up when they're out.
Yeah, perfect. Happy to do that for you. And Taylor is an example of representing an organization with Buncombe County Schools that isn't subject to the nonprofit assurances because they have different financial assurances that they follow.
I have a question, Rachel.
Sure.
When we are looking to, bring a new person on board, you say July 1st, and it's potential that somebody may not be able to be starting right away, right? I mean, it would be ideal, but it's what, the 27th. So I'm thinking that's probably not going to happen. But so July 1st, first, second weeks. I mean, that type of stuff obviously is okay because we're going to be looking to hire someone on.
Yep. Let me answer that. Thanks, Davina, for speaking up. Let me answer that from a couple of perspectives that came to mind. So in your case, you've got funding for staffing or personnel. And when you did the budget, you might have, for shorthand, just put in 12 months of those costs. So we'll work with you throughout the year to kind of see how spending is going according to the budget categories. It may be that we find ourselves 3 months into the year and we understand there's going to be some funding that wasn't completely drawn down in that line item that you want to ask to move over to another line item. And we do have the ability to do that. But maybe you already built in, well, we'll probably have someone, 10 months out of 12. So it's going to be case by case, kind of just depending on what budget assumptions you used when putting that together. The other thing that your question brought up for me is something that might be worth noting. Even if we sign and notarize the contract in the middle of July, your period of performance, the effective date of the contract, starts July 1. So you'll be able to, anything you spend on that day forward can be included in the first drawdown, even if we're working on finalizing paperwork things past that actual date.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I know we have a mix of people with different types of roles, as we heard during the introduction, and that people can wear a lot of hats. We tried to cover information that might apply to your organization, but might not necessarily apply to everyone who's on the call today. So please feel free to forward a copy of the slides, or ask for a copy of the recording, or even ask maybe for a time for us to chat if you want to ever put us in touch with folks at your organization. Like sometimes groups will ask if we can meet with their board treasurer or with their accountant that comes in on a periodic basis, or work with their bookkeeper to verify they've got something set up. Whomever within your group you'd like to connect us to, we're happy. I take it as a positive sign that it hasn't been too confusing today. Many of your organizations have been funded before, so that makes it easier for us. But whether or not you're new to the process or have been here for many years, sorry, I was reading your note. Whether or not you're new or a renewal, I completely lost my train of thought, but I see Jess has added to the chat an offer, and it reminded me about Pete asking to share information from his organization to other members of the group. If you ever would like us to distribute messages to others within the cohort of these grantees, we're happy to do that. Great. Our goal is to demystify, to the extent we can, the process of managing government funding, to be as responsive as we can, flexible where we can, and most importantly, get these dollars into your organizations where they can be achieving the important community impact that you have proposed them for. So thank you for participating in our conversation and for going along with us through all the various steps of establishing these contracts and reporting on these contracts. We appreciate the work that you do day in and day out, and know that dealing with contracts and reporting isn't always the reason why you wake up and get out of bed and participate in early learning work, but it's important for us to be accountable to the public for these funds, and to the review committee that oversees the work, and the commissioners that continue to invest year after year in our children and families in our community. So thank you very much for your part. I'm pausing to see if any other final questions jumped up. It doesn't look like it. So this is where we say goodbye and look forward to connecting again soon. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.